Hello there, this is Carrie's Tea, and you're listening to Uncommon Humanity Limited Special Series, where we go deeper into our recent leadership and culture messages by the Evolution Senior Leadership Team. And we'll also be taking questions from all our friends in our community. Go and catch episode 1 if you have yet to, where we kind of talk deeper into the first of the 3 messages. And if you are brand new here on the podcast, welcome. Go and check out season 1 episode that will get you thinking about culture, leadership, community, and life in general. The sound is awesome. The video is awesome. The setup is incredible. Unlike Zoom. Well, today we are on episode 2 talking about the message by Edwin titled Leadership Excellence. Before that, hello, Edwin.
Hello.
Woo! Our lead
Woo!
pastor in the evolution. How has
Hi.
everything been?
It's been great, I guess.
It's been long.
It's been long. I was thinking like how long have I been in, in full-time in TiVo, right? I think
Right,
it's
right.
been 2.5 years since the start of 2020.
Wow. It's really been some time, right?
Mm.
2022. Oh, that is like the period of time where we just came off
The
COVID,
that yes.
just right before we go into our transitions and all that. And since I have you here, I should start off by asking you, right? What's the
Mm-hmm.
most rewarding and what's one thing that keeps you motivated
That's such a deep question to ask as the first
to
question.
start off?
Yeah, to start off with. Okay. I think for me is people.
Right.
The best answer I can give is people. Because
10
I,
10.
but honestly speaking, because I feel a sense of joy when
Mm,
I really see people's lives being transformed, whether it's through their relationship with God or through the community. Mm.
right. So I would say that you are somebody, right? I know that has a lot of ideas and a lot of
Mm.
thoughts. Like it
Yeah.
comes out in our interactions, also your interaction with your team, as well as like when I see you manage social media and then in your messages and all that. Even the recent conversations that we have, we talk about a lot of random things. Like one
Yeah.
time we talk about aliens,
Mm-hmm.
the Netflix film called Three
Three
Body
body problem, yeah.
Problems. And then another time on anime on Attack on Titans.
But you didn't watch, you did finish the anime or
I
did you
did, I
just read
did.
up?
I watched the summary of the Attack of
That's
Titans,
not counted. You
the
need to
whole
finish all the
series.
season.
No, I know the story inside out.
I see.
Oh, we should wait. That's a conversation for another time, lah.
Okay, okay. No, but I also know we talked about Olympics this year.
Oh,
And I got to
yay!
say, in these Olympics, right? To me, it's very special because usually I went watch Olympics, it was just, some certain sports that I'm into. But this time around, right, I think the Olympics has a lot of like, all the athletes has a lot of social media presence and they share
Mm.
a lot of their personal stories. And I know you and I, we keep talking like, this person shared this thing and then this person, like, we learn about the story about how they, the flag in front in front of their shirt is bigger than the
Hey, yeah,
name behind my
I'm
back.
I'm really inspired by this athlete who said that she
Yeah.
is the flag that she bears, in front of her t-shirt, right, is bigger than the name that's on her back.
Yeah.
So is there a
Yes.
specific athlete that you're into?
Yes. I think most people would know by now. Is this guy, he's a Japanese basketballer,
Yes.
Yuki
It's all
Kawamura.
over your Instagram
I try to be subtle, but
and
apparently
your
it's not subtle
messengers.
enough. Yes. I've been sending and I've been sending it to like Darius and all the boys basketball, right? It's like, wow, I keep very inspired by this. But the very interesting thing, right, about this guy, right, he's only 23 years old. I thought he was older.
Yeah, he looks
And
older in the photos though.
And really, before the Olympics, right, nobody knew him. I mean, I don't know him. I don't know if like Darius know him, but he has this very special trait about him, right? That he's only 5'8", which is
How tall is that?
172 cm.
That's quite tall.
That's quite tall in our context, probably, but as a basketballer, right, you're not very tall because
What's
the
the
average
average
height,
height?
yeah, the
Yeah.
average height of a basketballer at least is at 190 and above, 190 to 210. If you talk about
What?
CM,
They are
yeah,
minions.
NBA players are very very tall, so he is very very small. But I know what I really love about him, right, is because people tend to see small people in smaller sizes, right, especially a basketballer, as a disadvantage.
Right.
But he still continue to pursue his passion for the game. He, defy all odds. So I am small, but I can be quick. So he went to master all the other parts, which is like his game intelligence, his agility. He can dribble from one side to the other side very quickly. And really, because of his hard work, he really impressed in the recent Olympics, which Japan narrowly lost to France. And that match was very interesting because in the Olympics, right, that match was he was the shortest guy. He was going up
Hmm.
against the tallest guy in the Olympics
Wow,
in
how tall is
basketball.
he?
He was 220 something, I think, cm.
What?
And so
Wow.
literally he was like at his chest level, his head's at his chest level.
Uh,
Yeah, so very, very interesting. And after the Olympics for Yuki Kawamura, right, he got scouted to join the NBA. In
hmm.
fact, and he joined the Memphis Grizzlies, which I've been watching their
Wow.
preseason matches. So the interesting thing is when he signed a temporary contract, but during the preseason he really impressed. And just last week, I think he signed a permanent two-way contract, so he is officially in the NBA league. Yeah, so very, very
Hmm.
cool. So that's I'm very obsessed with him over the past few weeks.
And
But
basketball.
yeah, but how about you? Are there any athletes that you're very inspired by?
Not particular, but I've been very into table tennis matches lately. Maybe tennis as well. So I've been watching the
Yeah.
summary of the table tennis match because now coming off Olympics, they are in a new WTT season. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I've been watching that. Very impressive though, the young athletes. They're all in their early 20s, and then their story, their discipline, very inspiring. I mean, especially I love to watch them under pressure,
Mm-hmm.
like really their capacity character shows when they are very tired, but yet they still perform and do very well. Yeah, and of course their courage, like to pursue their dreams.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of which, Edwin, in your leadership excellence message, you spoke about three truths about opportunities. So just to recap for everybody, truth number one, opportunities come from people in authority.
Mm-hmm.
Truth number two, opportunities are earned, not given. Truth number three, opportunities are the chance for personal growth more than a promotion or paycheck. You also talk
Yep.
about three things that people in authority are looking for. One, willingness to serve. Two, ability to meet expectations. Three, consistent performance. So I
Yep.
was looking at all the questions that came in and hearing all the sharing that's on the ground, right? There are four broad categories that everybody wants to know. So we're going to take some time to talk about willingness to serve and opportunities, after which we'll answer questions on meeting expectations and being consistent. So I love your story about Raj, the carpenter who built the chair for Pope
Mm.
Francis in his recent visit to
Yes.
Singapore. He was so detailed and excellent. And it really shows his willingness to serve because he researched the Pope's family background. His
Yeah.
family name I heard, was incorporated in the armrest that he designed for him.
Yeah.
And when I was hearing you share, I think what really struck me is that when you truly embody this attitude, you become someone who's truly motivated. And not only that, you are also effective in your service. Because people like that, they are motivated to find out what the real need is. It's not just checking off a to-do, just get something done. So they ask very good questions. They are
Mm-hmm.
able to step into somebody else's shoes. They dig deeper. And because of that, their work is very effective. And I was
Yeah.
thinking, right, like being willing to serve leads to excellence, right?
Yes, I agree. When I look at Raj's story and I observe generally great people
Yeah.
who exhibit willingness to serve, I think their end goal is always people
Hmm.
and how they care for people better. And case in point in TiVo, I really look up to CJ for that.
Oh, woo.
And I remember for the past 1 year when we were looking for a new space, CJ and together with the team really put in a lot of thought on how to make the space as aligned to our value of inclusiveness and also accessible for everyone.
Yeah, I would say that our pastors and leaders are really awesome people. They really embody this willingness to serve and excellence. And not just that, but perfect example is this season, right? We're in this month of a little semi break. Our pastors wanted to give the leaders, our people, especially those that were working really hard, serving very hard, a breather. I would say, especially our pastors, they needed a rest. They
Mm,
have been walking us through this transition the whole of last year or so. If you've been listening to the past few episodes, you would know what exactly has been going on. So much has been
yeah.
happening, right? And you and CJ, I mean, even though it's a break this season, but you end up working the hardest this period because not having usual gathering, in fact, is taking up more
Yeah, more
energy
energy. Yes,
than it is really
definitely.
having a break, right? Breaking away from our usual rhythms. End up, we have to put in more work or have
Mm-hmm.
to think about what other things to do to fill up what would have been our usual gathering.
Yeah,
So like you have to think about how to maybe organize our quiet times,
yeah,
organize certain rhythms this season to get the community focused and going. And also one of the things we are doing is this podcast,
yeah.
UCH, to give everybody something to listen to learn. Yeah, I want to end off by saying how willingness to serve is not just a Christian value. We talk about it a
Mm-hmm.
lot in church, but
Yeah,
it is a
definitely.
life value. And
Yes.
when you embody that value, you become a better person and you become a better leader.
Yeah.
So, moving on to opportunities. You talked about how opportunity is not just in a form of a title or a promotion, right? It is the chance to grow. And we have had questions, and one of it is coming from Darius. And he asked,
It's here.
I paraphrase, does it mean never mind the promotion, as long as I'm growing, I'm learning as a person? How do I go about with this? And we thought that we will contextualize for you, right?
Yeah, to answer that question, I don't think we should see it as, we pursue one and then we give up the other. It's not an either or thing. I think it can be both, but the priority is important. So to
Hmm.
understand that priority, you got to ask ourselves, right? We got to ask ourselves what outcome we want. Are we doing it out of, I would say, profit, right? Titles and promotion, something that we can gain. Because if we do it out of the heart for that, our identities are built around it. And when that opportunity or when that profit is gone, right, or it's at risk, we become very insecure. We become very
Hmm.
uninterested. Or are we focusing, on the other hand, on personal growth? Because if we focus on personal growth, the outcome isn't about that title or that promotion. Those are just bonus. Like if you get it, you get it. But outcome you're looking for is something more permanent, such as whether you grow to become a better version of yourself before the opportunity. Right? After that, you become a better person. So really my advice to everyone out there is focus on personal growth. The profit part is a bonus. Even if you don't get a title or promotion, at least you know you became a better person. But if you do get a title or promotion, you've earned it. So I also want to
Hmm.
push this a little bit further, right, by speaking to all the boys. And I would say never use profit as your only motivation or approach to opportunities. Because
Hmm.
boys, listen, right, we are somehow more biologically wired to be a bit more, I would say, profit margin driven. We want to do things because there is something to gain. Or the title of leader, whether it's in church or in school or in workplace, like a promotion that you are eyeing on at work, right? Because we want to feel powerful, right? We want to feel recognized. I do that. I
Hmm.
feel that when I was younger as well. Even right up to now, I still do. And same thing, if the profit no longer exists or is uncertain, we tend to stop just pursuing the opportunity altogether. And I don't know how many guys have seen, right, who had great potential to succeed in life, but then they throw away all these opportunities because they can't get what they want in the moment.
So for girls, right, on the other hand, I find
Mm,
that they are more willing to meet a need without recognition, and it's easier for them to seize the opportunity and grow without promotion. So the
yeah.
downside of that is that they end up having no visibility for the good work that they do. In
Oh
fact, the both of
no.
us we were talking about this, right? And
Yeah.
we were reading this interesting Harvard finding, which explains about this, and we thought we're gonna share with you guys. So the
Yeah.
finding goes that they find that there seems to be a systemic gender difference in how work is allocated, with women spending relatively more time than men on non-promotable tasks and less time on promotable ones. So, meaning, despite women's significant education background, they find that how come for men and women the promotional trajectory is so vastly different.
Hmm.
In fact, women are more likely, twice as likely to volunteer for opportunities, even opportunities that does not lead to promotion.
Wow.
So people will
Yeah.
ask like, why would women
Yeah,
do that?
why?
Is it because women are better at this task than men?
Mm.
Maybe. Or is it because they enjoy these tasks more
Mm.
than their male colleagues? I don't think so. Or is it because people naturally expect women to volunteer more?
Mm.
So they conducted several experiments, and so let us give you the lowdown on the outcomes, which kind of surprised us. So one, they found that in a mixed sex group, men will hold back on volunteering, while women in turn will volunteer to ensure that the task is done.
But in a single sex group, this changes. Men
Hmm.
and women volunteer equally.
Wow,
So in
claps.
in this group, right, men know they have to step forward if they want to find a volunteer, and women expect other women to volunteer, making them less compelled to do so themselves. So interestingly, in women's groups, the volunteering ends up being shared equally across 10 rounds. They did 10 times. While in men's group, it tends to fall on the same man each time. And I
Oh,
was thinking about
so
this.
poor thing.
Yeah, so I was thinking about this. I was like, it's pretty true, because when I was in NS, it was the same.
Right.
No, we have this, some of us just live by this motto, right? Act blur, live longer, or we wanna do things that are like bravado, that people recognize you. So,
What?
so very, very often it ends up the same people who have to, okay, lah, I sacrifice, I volunteer.
Oh, so
Yeah.
poor
Yeah.
thing. Are you one of them?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the first, right? Second, they find that the gender of the manager did not make a difference. So both male and female managers were more likely to ask a woman to volunteer than a man. Women were more likely to say
Hmm.
yes, and a request to volunteer was accepted by men 51% of the time, but by women 76% of the time.
Oh,
So when I was reading this, I'm
yeah.
asking myself, I'm a manager, you are a manager, we are leaders. Makes me question, do I do that? Do we do that?
Do you?
I mean, when I was thinking about it, I think where possible, I try my
Yeah.
best to make sure that the load is evenly, carried by
Mm,
everybody. But if the project is urgent and at the same time is very important, then I think that's when I don't consciously take
mm.
note of who do I rely on or turn to. I may very well rely on the same few people. Maybe happens to be all women, maybe, who are competent, reliable, and to get it done. Yourself?
I would no, I think I would do the same.
Same
And
meaning.
to split it equally among people instead of just being seeing it as like, I'm more prone to pick a certain person, regardless of guys or girl, to me actually. So, but I would say also in TiVo,
We
we
have
do
great
have, yeah,
guys.
we have great guys who volunteers, who works hard in the community.
And hopefully more great guys.
Yes.
You guys listening? Yeah, okay. Yes. So what are the conclusions in the finding, which I think would be good for us to be aware and start to do
Mhm.
more of? One is women volunteer simply because men are reluctant to do it.
Okay, I will say first, okay, this really isn't about pointing fingers, okay. We
Yeah,
we
of
should
course.
all be aware that this is a systemic issue and we have the power to do something about it. So, men, speaking to all of you here, we have to really step up and volunteer more. And also
Mm,
managers and leaders be aware of this issue and really help to create an environment of, I would say, equity. It's fair, it's regardless of gender.
right.
Now, this is not, of course, not something new in TiVo. We have always, the leaders have always been making conscious efforts to teach about equity. Or in fact, it's one of the things that we really believe in. And both to the guys to actively volunteer and share the load with the girls, and also
Mm.
to the girls to sometimes say no and take a step back so everyone can have equal chance to serve and contribute. So to everyone who is and will be in our community, right? You are in good hands. We won't be afraid to, if we see it, we won't be afraid to talk and teach you about these things.
And definitely awareness helps a
Mm.
lot, like knowing
Yeah.
that there's a gap. Yeah. So, talking about opportunities, there was a question coming from Jasper, and he asked, do you think that access to opportunity is primarily dependent on relationships with people in authority, or can individual create their own path to success?
But I think you will have better thoughts on this. But my short answer is we need both. We need to be
Mm.
capable of paving our own way to success and at the same time attract the right relationships with people in authority. What do you think?
When I was thinking, right, I think you can if you are that person with all the power, all the authority, and all the
That's
money,
true.
and you make anything happen. Well, I personally think it depends. which
Yeah.
industry, what context we are looking at.
Yes.
I mean, working for somebody in a company versus starting up your own business, you are hired for a role, then you have to perform and you have to impress your bosses as compared
Yeah.
to you are your own boss, right? Maybe for all our Gen Z and millennials, you're thinking that I want to be my own boss. I make my own decisions.
Yeah.
I pave my own way. Well, even then, to scale up your business, you do have to attract people like investors, people with capital, partners in businesses. Maybe some of you think that, then how
Mm.
about those self-starters, right?
Yeah.
Tech firms, they start up movement, their own company like Facebook, Instagram. I mean, they paved their own way. Facebook was a huge success when it first started, right? In US, in Canada, nearly there's a ton of membership and hype about it. But it really became a global
Yeah.
phenomenon when there are major investors and capitalists that invested millions of dollars to scale it up. So I would
Mm-hmm.
say that um, you do need to attract and you do need to have people to get
Yeah.
to a bigger stage. But then
Yes.
again, there are self-starter that maybe you don't need to attract authority, maybe
Mm.
like on the social media platform, because social media is so proliferated, right? It has
Yep.
made it easier for certain profession, like say content creators, young YouTubers, artists, creators, musicians, that you don't necessarily have to have some sort of connection. You're able to reach a wider audience and be successful by what we call like non-conventional ways as compared to in the past. But then also, like back to what Edwin said, why choose if you can do both?
Yeah. And I do think both are also connected. So if you have an individual or you are an individual who has the qualities and talents to pave your own way, you will also likely attract opportunities and catch the attention of great leaders or people in authority who will open up doors for you. But also at the same time, opportunities don't always automatically drop into your lap just because you have relationship with someone in authority. You do need to have the skills and readiness to seize those opportunities.
So we have a few guests with us. Go ahead and say hello and introduce yourself.
Hello everyone, I'm
Hmm.
Christine and one of the leaders here at TiVo.
Hi everyone, I'm Ping and I'm currently working.
Hi everyone, I'm Darius and I'm currently studying in JC.
Hey everyone, I'm Sherwin and I'm currently working full-time as a chef.
Woo!
Oh,
Welcome everybody. First of all, thanks for coming on.
yes.
We want to answer some questions on how a leader is someone who meets expectation and is consistent, and they will be here to, ask those questions. So on meeting expectations, Ping, you have a question?
Yes, so my question is, what are some ways we can clarify expectations and ensure that we meet them?
Yeah, I think definitely first step is to just clarify with them.
Right.
Right? Ask them, is this what I think you're asking of me? Is this correct? Then if not, then what are your expectations? So the outcome you're looking for is alignment. But I want to emphasize a little bit is to clarify directly with the person, okay? Because I think sometimes when we are unsure, we go through other people or we add assumptions. So I've seen this a lot in many teams where when the expectations are unclear, but what everyone does right is to clarify with everybody else except the person that is giving you the expectations. So and worse than you receive their version of the expectations, right? At the end of the day, I would think you are further and further away from your boss, what the boss expects from you. So really just communicate directly with the person. And the second thing is if after clarification, if it's still unclear, then it's time to manage the situation a little bit. Uh, One, you can quantify the expectations. Like, okay, these are the three things you need me to look out for or you want me to do. Two is to give options, right? With regards to what you say, I think these are the expectations, but that might work. And or C or third thing, right, is ask do they mean this? If not, then what? The same thing again. So the goal, right, is what you want to establish is a set of expectations that you and your boss or your leader agree to. And once agreed, right, if you want to manage the situation well, put it in writing. Like, in the workplace, you could email your boss so that each of you have your own kind of like, copy to remind yourself about the expectation set. no hard feelings
What you
here.
agree on lah.
Yeah, what you agree on. Now, for me, this also may, some ways when you're hearing this, right, it might give you the impression that you might be, oh, what if I'm a bit rude, or I'm crossing the line a little bit. So I would say you have to learn how to manage the situation tactfully. So my tip here would be to think win-win. You need to step into your bosses or leaders' shoes as well and think on their behalf what's their objective for the team, which includes you. And how does clarifying that objective help to achieve the bigger goal, to boost productivity, to make the team more effective? And if you can approach it as a win-win situation, like then the more likely they will agree with you, like, okay, I get it. You need this sets of expectations or things that in order for you to work or for the team to work. And even if after the first two steps, right, you clarify, you try to manage situations, and it's still unclear,
Unclear.
then sometimes you just have to change the environment, or
What does that mean?
means you find if it's a workplace, maybe that space isn't the best for you. You have to find another job to move on. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
change your boss,
But
is
I also
it?
understand sometimes, like, even for youth, you can't change your environment that easily. Right? It's like I don't change school tomorrow, that kind of thing. But then again, then you just have to really make sure you do the first two things very well, which is
Mm,
just clarify that with the person and just learn to manage that situation.
right. And Darius has a question.
Yes, so I'll be asking a question on behalf of Andrew, an adult in TiVo. So he
Oh,
asks, how can we foster a culture of grace in church leadership that still drives growth and excellence, especially
Yeah.
for those who are new or struggling to meet expectations?
right. So I was thinking about this. If we want to drive growth and excellence, then there has to be standards and expectations, right? Because if not, we cannot achieve greatness. But also depending on your role. If you are a leader, you're IC, then there is a higher expectations because you are responsible for people, for decision making.
Mm-hmm.
If you are a team member, there is also expectation because it's also
Yeah.
challenging to work in a team if you cannot meet certain, I would say, baseline expectations like showing up on time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for all those who are new to the team, right, I want to allay your anxiety or your worry. I want you to know that expectations are appropriate to where you are at,
Yeah.
the task that you're doing. So don't compare to, wow, there's this expectation, like my leaders
Yes.
meeting, I've got to expect that of myself. No. So know that it's appropriate. There is also going to be training phases for you to familiarize and also to improve on meeting those expectations. If you are somebody who is struggling to meet expectations, then I would say you need to know why you are struggling.
Mm-hmm.
Is it an attitude, willingness issue that you need to keep working at it? Is it because you are unclear with the expectations? Like you have been spoken to multiple times, but at the end of the talk, you have no idea. Why am I being spoken to? You're unclear. Is that why? Is it really you're lacking of skills? So I do want to encourage you that to keep working at something if you're struggling, to grow your heart, your capacity, because I've seen people struggle, and if they commit to working on it, they actually get better.
Yes. Yeah, that's right.
But at the end of the day, if you really still cannot meet expectation, like struggling, then it's okay. We make space for people to work at it, maybe in a different role that is more suitable for you to grow.
Yeah.
So we love you and we are still friends regardless of
Yes.
titles.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So there is a baseline expectation and culture, I would say. Like I recognize that at the pioneering stage of church, that because we are small, we are working on culture, right? That there will be a stronger culture of involvement and intensity. So even when we tell people, like, for example, it's okay. But because you see everybody serving and everybody participating, there is a unspoken expectation
Yes.
that you gotta serve, you gotta be involved. So in conclusion, I would say that you will find space here to work at meeting expectations, but at the same time to understand that there is a baseline expectation depending on your role, depending on responsibility.
So moving on to consistency, Darius, you have another question?
I have a question from Ashley and Aishu, two youths in TiVo. So they ask, ask, are there practices or mindsets that have helped you to stay consistent and disciplined?
Mm.
Well, let me just revert the question back to all of you. What keeps you
Everybody
going?
here.
Yeah, everybody. What keeps you going?
I'm curious.
I think what keeps me going is commitment.
Wow.
Commitment to
Wow.
my team.
Starting off strong.
Yeah.
Yes, commitment to my team, to the people around me, and also
Yeah.
to my personal goals. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
For me, it's probably goals and trackers where there's something to aim for and there's something
Yeah.
that keeps me on track.
Yeah.
I think for me will be responsibility towards others around me.
Wow. Okay.
I think for me, actually quite similar to Sherwin. Yeah, seeing everyone, my team, or working towards the same goal, so it
Hmm.
helps to encourage me also.
Yeah. So it's interesting that all of you, I mean, you shared different things. And I think everybody respond to what motivates you or keeps you consistent or disciplined differently. But for me, so mine is similar to what Xingmin shared. And this is what I want to say to you also. I think there are three ways that helped me when I was a youth. One is I learned to set smaller goals, to break down, because a lot of times we have big vision or big goals, right? We break into smaller ones, smaller goals and smaller milestones. So
Mm.
I remember, like, for example, if let's say I want to save I'm a youth, I want to save $1,000 to buy, I don't know, my dream guitar in church, right? It seem very difficult at the start. The inertia is very high. Like, where can I find this $1,000? Like, I don't access to this kind of money. But when you break it into smaller goals, you go like, I maybe set it within 10 months. Every month I save $100. Now it's suddenly feel, okay, I just have to make sure I hit every single milestone every month. It makes it a little bit more manageable. You feel like you can do it. You feel a bit more excited. It's not like, wow, so far away, but it's possible. And then within 10 months, if you do it consistently, you will hit your $1,000 goal. And also bring it to my second point, right, which is to celebrate the milestones. I feel this is something that I'm still learning, which is it's important to celebrate the small wins. And it's okay to, when you hit your milestone, to kind of reward yourself. When you arrive at your milestone, like you save $100 already. Maybe, take a little break, treat yourself to a little bit of good food. It's okay. Don't spend all the money away, uh, but do whatever it takes to energize you to work towards the next milestone. I feel that's important. And the third thing I want to say is, this is from personal experience. Okay, it's embarrassment. So I feel that actually this is the most effective one. Okay, I'm sad to say, but it's the most effective. I remember when I first come on as a volunteer staff in TiVo. So there was that
Many,
day,
many years
many
ago.
years ago. Like there was daily staff meeting, like very early, like 8, 9 a.m. Okay, back as a youth, to me it was early.
It's still early.
So when we come to the meeting, we need to be early. We need to be prepared to update during the meeting. So I remember one day, right, I was more than 30 minutes late, and everyone was just waiting for me to update, which I needed more time. But it was for the wrong reason, because I stayed up late the night before, like, playing games, watching shows, kind of thing. So I had to walk into the office, and I was super embarrassed because everyone was just looking at me, waiting for me. I wasn't prepared. I had to take some time. Sorry, I need just 10 minutes. Then I got type in order to update. So that, is also a kind of like, I won't say motivation, but it keeps me like, okay, I shouldn't do this anymore. And to keep me like, I need to be more consistent. I need to show on time. I need to be more prepared. If I need to sleep early, I sleep early.
Mm.
Mm.
Right. I think for myself, I would say habits and rhythms really helps to keep me going. And so I would say to the youth, if you have a chance to build great habits, right, since young, you should do it. Because
Mm.
if you are since young, you under pressure, you keep showing up or keep committing without giving up, you really build that quality, that value, such that, maybe years will have passed, you're in your 20s, 30s, right? You are still able to pull from within yourself,
Yeah.
like under pressure to still show up, to still do it. Yeah.
Yes. So we have another question from Christine.
We have a question from Clement, who is the head of culture at TiVo, and he asks, would there be a situation where what we were previously consistent with is not the standard for where we should be at anymore? How do we measure consistency with performance in this case? The next question is from Cindy, who is the Senior Department Head of Operations, and she asks, are expectations for leadership and excellence different in church settings compared to secular environments, and how can we manage that?
Yeah, wow. Clement, I think what you're asking is excellence. And one thing about excellence is I realized that it is a moving target. So, like what you said it in your question, right? What is excellent at one level? Yes, it is often not the same excellent at the
Yeah.
other level. And I think we all know this because coming from Edwin's message, right? Excellence is not giving what we think is best, it is meeting expectations. So this is something that is easy to accept, easy to know in theory, but it can be very difficult to do, or sometimes we don't realize it. So I find that realizing the gap, that there's a gap at every level that you go on to, that that gap is the first step, realization. And then after that, you work towards that consistently.
Now, to answer Cindy's question, I think the same principle applies. It's just that the expectation changes according to the environment. Now, the expectations of excellence, right, is different from, of course, in whether in church or at a workplace, because the environment is different. Your bosses are different. The way they operate and the way they are pushing the team for a certain goal is different. So definitely, it's almost like a moving target. Still meaning like you can't have the same kind of expectations when you are in church or when you are in the workplace. But I would say the thing that is consistent is the values must be consistent. That means your values, it shouldn't shift according to those expectations.
So, Sherwin, you have a question?
Our next question is from one of our young adults. Her name is Rebecca. Question is, how do we stay consistent in our performance without burning out?
So two scenarios I can think of where consistent performance leads to burnout. One is when the environment you're in is very chaotic and disruptive. So I'm talking about crisis level kind of environment where you're
Yeah.
rushing for important deadlines or attending to something that needs immediate attention. So of course you can't be consistent here because you need to give more. So for example, parents with newborn, when your child is sick, you have to be there. But also there's sometimes we create our own crisis because sometimes we could procrastinate. Like if you have a major deadline to hit, um, but then there's always tomorrow. Tomorrow then I do. Then you wait and wait and wait, right? The last few days, boom, then crisis. Then it's like you start to panic. And if you apply this to all areas of our life, the same thing, it accumulates and you will burn out very quickly. So I would say, if possible, try not to have too many crisis level problems, um, especially those you have control over, and learn to, if you can, plan ahead, set up sufficient systems of response so that when it happens, you know what to do. The second scenario is when we are consistently overworking. So we must also be consistent in our energy level output. So we shouldn't be pushing for 100% every day. It is impossible. I think we should definitely work hard every single day with that intention, but physically you can't, squeeze out every single minute of the day just to work. No, your body cannot keep up, especially when we get older. So the principle is that instead of just pushing for 100 every single day and wake up, right? The healthy level is about 80%, where you have enough reserve in the tank that if something crops up, it's a crisis come up, you can go to 100%, you can give your full time and attention to those situations. So
Right.
really how to know that percentage and whether you are hitting the 100 every single time, right, is when you learn to self-regulate, take necessary breaks, especially when you feel that something is a bit off in your life and you feel a little bit too overly tired or you couldn't bring in the consistency that you're looking for. And also get feedback from other people. I think that's very, very helpful. Surround yourself with friends, good friends who will look out for you, who will encourage you, but also speak the truth. Whether is it something that you need a break or you can do a little bit more in this period. But just to contextualize for you, Rebecca, I think I can't imagine how hard is it for you because I'm thinking about you are, you in a life you were a new parent or rather you are becoming another one coming, right? It's difficult because sometimes when you have a child at the beginning, the first few years, your life is no longer yours. It's you have to take care of this human being, right? So I think in that situation, you have to choose, you have to do whatever you can, even limited control that you have, and to make a choice of what to do next, what to do next, what to prioritize next, how to navigate the situation. So and I think there's a lot of things that you are juggling as well because you're also a working mom.
Mm.
And there will be a lot of things that you also want to do apart from just your kids and your career as well. So again, find ways to prioritize. That is this season right now, this year I'm in, what should be the one thing that I should focus on instead of doing everything like from parenting all at the same time with like a work, a career, giving 100% all of these areas. You can still keep up at the optimal level, but you have to be very careful of like sometimes you have to take a step back to pick the right battles to fight in different seasons. Okay, so Christine, you have another question.
We have a question from Vivian, you who just started working full time, and she asks, how can we stay consistent even during transitions or challenging times? And how do we take on a vision on our own and stay motivated?
Wow.
Okay. No, I think that it's really very difficult to handle transitions or challenging times alone.
It
It is
is.
very, very difficult. And
Anybody has it easy?
but from my experience, right, the thing that got me through this period, like I said at the start, is having the right people close to me.
Mm.
It's really about surrounding myself with people. I think that's my source of motivation because I have people who I can be vulnerable with. I can share my struggles. I have a source of encouragement. I have people who I am accountable to, right, to keep me on
Mm.
watch, to make sure I am not falling short of my own standards and expectations, to keep me on track. And they are also people who I can trust to speak the truth in my life.
Right.
So, for example, TJ, my pastor, Carrie, Clement, Winnie, Christine, and many, everyone else, right, here in TiVo, right, who
They are
you
not
are my
named.
friends,
They'll text you,
who
Edwin.
I'll switch my phone. But all of you are there who are my friends, right? Who I share my life with
Right, right.
very dearly, and it's really because of all of their encouragement, their wisdom, their advice, even just listening here. Don't need to be advice all the time. And because they are also the people who believe in me, right? I made a point that I want to work hard to make them, feel like I've earned their trust and and them, right? To me, and or even to go through tough time together. So, and I'll say this side note. I know we say this a lot of times is that even during this period when TiVo is finding a new home, right? The whole leadership team is really going through a very difficult period. We are really hustling very hard to find the right space. And I'm talking about we're spending late nights.
Mm. Mm.
We are looking through pages and pages and pages of documents that have very dense, language that we are
Mm.
trying to figure out to make sure that we are protected.
Mm.
Um, yeah, and we have to manage challenging situations. We have to do this amidst of our own transitions in our life. Many of us are
Mm.
going through transitions, changing jobs. We are trying to figure a way out to keep the church together. We are also worried, for our community's finances. It's limited
Mm.
resources. So it's a very difficult period, but you realize that all our leaders, right, that we always end our day that we are glad to have someone else to rely on, to work with, to work hard for. And I would say I know it's a pretty wholesome feeling, but that's the attitude behind it, which is we see everybody as I can go through the tough time with someone else. It's
Mm.
almost like we are suffering together, but you find joy in that suffering a little bit more bearable.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think people are the key ingredient.
Right.
Mm.
So I think external environment, external motivation, surrounding yourself with the right group of people really, really helps. And
Mm.
more than that, what's also important is to know who you want to be, what values are important to you. Like, is it being kind, being a generous person? Is
Mm-hmm.
spirituality important to you? Service to others, honesty, authenticity. Because when times are difficult and it's challenging, right, I find it is our internal values that kind of gives us that strength that
Yeah.
pulls us through. They are like a compass like that, kind of point you to the right step to move forward. And I find that we are genuinely happy, inspired when we are acting accordance with our values.
Yeah.
Sometimes people think like,
Yes.
oh, is I'm unhappy is just purely because external factors are
Mm.
affecting me, external situations are stressful. But I can find that you can be unhappy even when you're doing nothing. You can be lying on
That's
bed using
true.
your phone and wondering why am I unhappy and
Unhappy,
why am
yeah.
I,
Yeah.
stressed. So you got to know your values. You got to know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
I also find that when we are hurt and discouraged or stressed out, we're tempted to act against our values. So I've seen people, their value is kindness, generosity. And what happens is they go through disappointment, heartbreaks, betrayal, and then they're hurt. And when they don't heal well, they go through a long phase of acting against their values. Instead of
Yeah.
kindness, they're bitter, they are hating on the world. And what really happens is that's when their identity fragments and they are at a loss of who they
That's
are.
right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So got to know your values, know who you want to be. If you are young and you're not sure, like, oh, what values are important to me, you know what? Start with determining a few values that you want to become. And then you live by that. You can define more specifically along the way.
Right. My question is there a line to tread between perfectionism and consistency?
Your question, yes. I think to achieve greatness, right, there has got to be a level of excellence and some degree of perfectionism, right? All great artists, great people, they all have that obsession to pursue that awesomeness and they put in a lot of work to get there. But it's coming from a place of where it's aspirational. You are perfectionistic because you're aspirational. You want to build something that is ideal, that is awesome. But there are people that are perfectionists because they are insecure. Then that's when it becomes a problem, right? Because if you're insecure, you're always comparing yourself with others. And insecurity burns your energy for dreaming, for creativity, for attention to detail. Okay, so manage your insecurity, manage your drive, because when that is not in check, then that's when it's dangerous and disruptive to yourself and to relationship that you have around you. Yeah. So, but when it comes to working in a team, it is trickier because especially if the higher level you are, the more excellent you are as a leader, and you have a team that is very new and very young, then that's when it's very challenging. Or especially if the team is younger than you. So for example, like if I work with a newer team, right? Or our leaders work with a newer team, the leader has a certain, level of excellence, experience. And so when they work with newer people, the gap is very big. And it can sometimes be very frustrating. They have to spend time managing their idealism, their perfectionism, without destroying the team and the people. But the thing is that this is like only in the beginning. So as you climb, hopefully, and that you will find a team that will be willing and that is able to go at higher altitude with you. So that's all for Q&A. Thank you to all our guests who came online to join us for the discussion. We hope you have learned a lot. I've learned a lot too. So we're gonna let you guys go. It's very late now. So bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
So we talk a lot about leadership excellence in this episode and how we can be better producers. So I thought to land with this thought is that to me, the end goal of leadership, of achieving greatness, is really to love people better, to bring out the best in them so that for them and for us, everyone, we can thrive.
Yeah, to help you remember, one of our slogan in TiVo is so others, bracket we, can have better. So it's really about us doing something together so everyone can benefit from our leadership.
Yes.
That's all we have. Hope you have fun with us and also learn something. Tune in to our last and final episode for this run, which will drop 2 weeks later.
Bye.
See you. Bye.